Okay. It feel like I'm back in the portal, you understand me? Angel, man, look, I had to jump back in. You understand me? I just need you to go back out there, cloak me out the minds of everybody. You understand me? While I give this last lesson for the day. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of tired. You feel me? But you know what I'm saying? Because when I be in the portal, that take a lot of my energy. You know what I'm saying? So I need you to just cloak me out. I ask that you tell Yahweh about Shem Yahweh Shah, give me the strength that I need to be able to push through this lesson. You know what I'm saying? And I'm about to jump back in. Let's go. I'm back in the portal, man.
One of these mornings, it won't be very long.
Welcome to the portal, man.
You're gonna look for me, and I'll be gone. I'm going to a place where I'll have nothing to do, but just walk around heaven all day. Ooh. When I get to heaven, I'm gonna jump and shine.
Ain't nothing like the portal, man.
Ain't nobody will be able to shine me.
Let's go.
My mother will be there, and my father too. And we'll just join together and walk around heaven all day. Oh, Jesus, Lord, don't you hear me pray?
Okay, man. Okay. I am back in the portal again, you understand me? First off, I had to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Yahweh is the true name of the living God of Israel. His name means he who exists. Yahweh Shai is the true name of the one that everyone ignorantly called Jesus. Reason is because the letter J was created in 1524. The Bible, which is the correct and proper holy book, is way older than 1524. So we know his name couldn't have been Jesus. And the proper way that you say it is Yahweh Shai, right? And it means he who saves. Rakakwadash is the proper way that you say Holy Spirit in the ancient language, which is the Paleo Hebrew, and Bahashem is the proper way that you say in the name in the ancient language, which is the Paleo Hebrew. Second and foremost, I always have to pay homage to the great men that came before me in your previous lifetimes, all of the great kings, prophets, seers, and priests who came before me through and during the reincarnation process, doing the same thing that I am doing for you currently in your modern day lifetime, and that is giving you this game. You understand me? Yeah, man, I'm back in the portal again. Yeah, man. I had to jump in one more time. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably going to be weak after this one. You know what I'm saying? When I be doing these portal lessons and jumping into the portal, man, it take a lot of my energy. Because I really don't be me. You know what I'm saying? And, a lot of things transpire and go on, but hopefully we can make it through this one and get it done, right? My last lesson that I put up for you guys, it was called Polygamy, and I basically was discussing about the regulation and the correct way to do polygamy. Now, I want to make a disclaimer right quick on that lesson, right, if you on this one. Polygamy is the act of a man having more than one wife, right? But the thing is, you know, in the current society that we're in, right, like the Apostle Paul say, even though something is lawful, it might not be expedient, which means it might not be the wisest thing for you to do. So I don't want any man that's listening to me to be like, well, Terrence said, you know, nigga, I gotta have more than one woman. Look, if you know you ain't in a position to take care of all those women equally, right? And then too, you have to watch out for the HIV and STD rating that's out here. So you got to be mindful of these things. You got to know that you in captivity, you in slavery. So don't, you know, I just broke down to you what it is, and if you're gonna perform it the correct way that you perform it, right? But you got to do it at your own disclaimer, right? You know what I'm saying? Once again, you know, you got to be mindful, right, of the STD rating, of the HIV rating that's out here. You got to be mindful, right? And also know that, you know, you might not be in a position to take care of those women. You have to be mindful. But on that note, today what we gonna get into, because I touched on that lesson, and because polygamy is really a custom and a trait of the East, right? And we all practiced that at one point in time, right? It's just that over here in the West, the Caucasian man, right, they are descendants of Esau, Edom, who are also the descendants of the Greeks and Romans, because the Greeks and Romans, the ancient Greeks and Romans, right, they were Edomites. Okay, and the modern day Edomites today, the Caucasian man, right, who are their descendants, right, they changed the ways up because they knew who they had in captivity, right? So they changed everything up, right? Because they understood that in their kingdom, in order for their kingdom to function correctly, that the children of Israel needed to be in slavery, right? And you get that in Deuteronomy 28, right? As long as the children of Israel are committing sin, then the other nations are blessed, right? But as soon as the children of Israel start applying the 613 laws correctly to the best of their ability, then the other nations, the curses that are put on the children of Israel, it turns around and get put on them. So what the white boy did, as cunning as he is, he created a society where the children of Israel will be convinced in their minds that sinning will be okay. Okay, I hope I explained that well, right? But we're going to get into the lesson and show the difference between the ways of the East and the ways of the West, because everybody in Iran, Iraq, and all these other places are currently living under the ways of the East, right? And America hate these places. That's why they hate Africa. That's why they hate Iran. They hate Iraq, right? Because their ways are totally contrary to America ways, right? A lot of things that America does, right, such as homosexuality, women having the right to do whatever they want to do, right? You know, everything over here, man. A lot of these ways, right, if this was the ancient world, or if this was, you know, the East, right, a lot of us would be put to death, right? But let's get into the lesson, right? The East versus the West, the biblical civilization in a modern Babylon, right? And I want to say this, my homegirl Shamika, man, she kind of sparked this lesson. Also, I already had the polygamy lesson, but you know, she called me today, and I kind of talked about it on my last lesson, but she called me today and she was talking about how the guys at her church, basically the ministers and deacons, were confirming with her about, because she asked the question about if the Bible was created way older than 1524, and the letter J was created in 1524, why we're not calling them Yahweh Shai and why we calling them Jesus. And you know, they kept it real with her, you know, and told her, you know, they're basically under the 501c3 plan, and there's certain things that they can't discuss, right? And like I told her, that shows you why the portal lessons are very important, right? And why other Hebrew Israelite camps are very important, especially camps like Great Millstone, right, which I would consider as a high school type of class, right? Because when you get into the new covenant and understanding that you're in the new covenant, you're basically in college. You know, you're in college classes now. But that's why we are very important, right? Because the church is basically kindergarten, okay? I've had many preachers before tell me, you know, is certain things they just can't speak on because of the 501c3 plan, and because of the 501c3 plan, they have the individuals that go to their churches in a babe mind frame. So even if you was to try to tell them certain information, their mind hasn't matured biblically. Okay? That's why you still got people that's 50, 60, 70, 80 years old that believe that Adam and Eve, you know, bit off of an actual tree and ate a fruit. Even though your preacher know different. But he can't explain that information. He can't explain that the tree in the garden was actually a man. Well, the serpent in the garden was actually a man. Right? He can't explain it. So you got grown ass motherfuckers walking around the earth thinking that an actual snake was talking to Adam and Eve. Okay? Things like that, right? But she felt disgruntled. You know, after they told her, she had a disgruntled feeling about the situation, and she felt played. And that's what happens when you start to awaken. You feel played. Right? But feeling played, what happens a lot of times, a lot of people feeling played right now, but they're leaving the church and going into witchcraft, or they're leaving the church and going into other religions, or they just leaving everything alone at all, and they're going into what the West would call atheism, right? Becoming an atheist. Okay? They don't believe in anything. And but all of you guys that are on my channel, I hope that I am being a great, you know, teacher, shepherd, right, over my flock, and giving you guys the game that you need, right? And I played that song by Bo Williams, Walk Around Heaven, because you have multiple construct of heaven, right? So I played that song because when you got three heavens, okay? I'm going to break them down to you guys, right? The first heaven is rulership upon the earth. So right now, the white boy, he's in his rulership. He's in his heaven, right? When we get our rulership back, when Yahweh shall come back, and we get our full rulership back, we're going to be in our heaven, okay? Then you got the second heaven, which is the sky that's over your head right now, right? Where the sun at, the stars at, the beautiful clouds, right? That's, and you know, the solar system, the firmament, that's your second heaven, okay? Where the solar system and everything is at, okay? That's your second heaven. Then you have your third heaven. That is where the Most High and the angelic beings, right? And the demons and Satan is at, okay? Contrary to Christianity and the Western belief, because the Western belief says that Satan and the demons are on the ground and burning up. That's not true, right? They're in the third heaven with God, okay? And what also in the quantum or scientific terminology we'll call the fourth dimension, all right? But when I played that song by Bo Williams, because when we get back in our heaven, right, it's going to be a joyful thing, right? Some of us are being transformed. That's what the new covenant is about. You're being transformed, right? So you're experiencing some of that now, but just like surgery, it hurt. It hurt, right? You wake up, you realize, I was lying, it hurt, you know? But the good gospel is knowing that even if you don't make it on this side, you will be back and you will be in full kingdomship, right? If you do make it on this side, the only thing that you got hoping and coming to you is full kingdomship, right? Of course, you still got to do certain things, you know. Try your best to try to keep the laws as much as you can, and don't take the chip. You understand me? And make sure that you covered underneath the blood of Yahweh Shai. Know these names, right? But we battle with ourselves. You know, my homegirl, man, she wasn't telling me, but she was battling with the name Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, right? And she didn't tell me, but I knew, right? And I don't listen to what people say, right? I'm not that type. I don't listen to what you say. I watch your actions, right? And for a while, right, I've been knowing Shamika for a while. And for a while, you know, I would tell her about the names. But I would always catch her say Jesus, 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 right? And I understood that was a Western thing dealing with us, right? But today she did something that let me know she woke up. And She said the names, right? She said the name, and it came out so natural, right? And she was like, every time he said Jesus, I just had to say to myself, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Shai. And I was like, she woke, right? And that's a beautiful thing for me as a teacher to actually see, right? When the information starts to hit, right? And it's not up to me. I didn't make her do that. The Lord did. You know what I'm saying? So I take no claim for it, none of that. You know, I'm just saying it's a beautiful thing as a teacher to see that the information that's being taught, when it starts to be applied within the vessel of the student. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna get into the lesson, man. The separation between, or the contrast between the East and the West, right? Let's get it. The Bible is not a Western book. No, it is not. That's why our ways and what we do doesn't fit what we read in the Bible. Because it's a book of the East, right? And when you try to fit the ways that you were taught and raised up with over here, you find yourself battling, okay? It did not come from America. It did not come from Europe. It did not come from NATO. It did not come from democracy, feminism, capitalism, or secular humanism. The scriptures were written in the East: Jerusalem, Judea, Babylon, Persia, Egypt, and Assyria, right? And people over there in those regions still hold on to the Eastern ways. They live totally contrary to how we live over here in America. That's why they hate America, right? These were patriarchal civilizations governed by kings, fathers, elders, tribes, and divine laws. So the Bible is a patriarchal book. It's a man book. It's a book for men. Okay? A lot of women over here, because this is the West, they hate that. They'll be all right though, because you can't change the book. So what the white man gonna do eventually, he gonna try to get rid of it. Let's continue. The modern West promotes individualism, sexual liberation, rebellion against authority, consumerism, materialism, moral relativism. Okay, and that's what the West promotes over here. That's why you got a high obesity rate, right? That's why you got homosexuality on the rate. That's why you got STDs and HIV on the rate. Because women got the freedom to fuck who they want to fuck whenever they want to fuck. You know what I'm saying? Or fuck how many times they want to fuck, or fuck different men. You know, that's why things are fucked up over here, right? That's why children are out of line, right? That's why elders are out of line, because everything is contrary to the ways of the East. Right? The Bible promotes, though, which are the ways of the East: order, hierarchy, family structure, obedience to God, covenant, tribal identity, and righteous judgment. Right? The Bible is a patriarchal book, right? From Genesis to Revelation. Right? Apocrypha included. Right? And for all you people that's new to me, the Apocrypha is the books that were taken out of the Bible by the white man. Right? But they go in the middle of the Old Testament and New Testament. If you get a KJV 1611, those books are in there. I personally don't subscribe to the Ethiopian Bible, even though I've been hearing a lot of you guys, or I've been seeing that on the internet too, with a lot of people subscribing to the Ethiopian Bible. Man, look, all you need is a KJV, and you can buy you a separate Apocrypha, or you can go get you a KJV 1611. You still got the same book. Okay? Reason why I don't subscribe to the Ethiopian Bible, because of the Book of Enoch. They fabricated it. They played with it. Okay? Because of misunderstanding. All right? And the white man did that intentionally. Okay? Let's get it. From Genesis to Revelation, leadership is overwhelmingly masculine. Not feminine, masculine. Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Joshua, David, Solomon, the apostles. God consistently establishes fathers, elders, kings, and priests as heads of households and nations, not the woman. That's why women hate the Bible. Because over here in the West, they the head of the household. Genesis 3:16, thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. This establishes household authority structure after the fall, right? So after Adam and Eve fell, God had to give them the game. Because Adam went to simping behind Eve's little pussy. Okay? He had to tell Adam, Adam, you the king. That hoe listen to what you say. You don't listen to what the fuck she say. 1 Corinthians 11:3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ and the head of the woman is the man. The biblical structure is hierarchical. Right? God, Christ, man, woman, and children. The modern West teaches equality of roles and rejection of authority structures. Yes, it does. It says that the woman is equal to the man. She can do the same thing that a man can do. Right? That's why people over in the East don't want the ways of the West. They hate America. That's why they over there in Iran screaming death to America. Right? Because the culture and the ways and the customs of America is demoralizing. So when those ways get introduced over there in their lands, the people become demoralized like we are over here. The East understood order, the West glorifies rebellion. Why? Because they hate God. The white man rule this land. He God's main #1 enemy. He hate God. He is the physical counterpart that the spiritual entity Satan uses, right? Servitude in the East. The Bible regulated servitude instead of pretending hierarchy did not exist, right? Exodus 21:5-6. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I would not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an oil, and he shall serve him forever. See, servitude and slavery is always been a custom. The white man knows this. It's good. He okay with slavery as long as he's the master. Okay? As long as he the master, he good with it. But when it come down to him being in servitude, everybody equal at that point. Right? But slavery has always been a custom of the East. Right? And that verse is talking about, you know, if you were Israelite and you happen to buy another Israelite brother, right? And that brother is pleased with being under you, right? You treating the brother good, you feeding him good, you making sure the wife that you gave him, that they straight, and the brother say, you know what, I'm okay. I'm good with you. Just like if you was working at a job and you pleased with your boss there. You know, what the brother would do, what the master that was over you would do, he would go put an all in your ear. Now, the white man understands this principle. So what he's doing, he feel like he's our master. So what's coming with the chip, that's the oil, right? He gonna pierce you, right, with that chip. So once you get pierced with that chip, you done made your allegiance to the white man. You basically done said, besides the Most High God being your master, the white man is your master. Okay? This was covenant loyalty. A servant who loved his master voluntarily remained under his authority. The East understood what? Loyalty, covenant, honor, structure. The West teaches self above community. Yup. Everybody for self. Rebellion against authority. Do whatever feels right. That's how we live over here in America. Over here in Europe. Canada. Right? Mexico. Right? Over here, all the places of the West. Right? Jamaica. Colombia. Right? Multiple wives in scripture, right? Just going a little more in depth, even though I just did a lesson on it. The Bible contains many examples of men with multiple wives. Abraham, Jacob, David, Solomon, Elkanah, right? Nowhere does the law explicitly forbid polygamy. No, it doesn't. God is in favor of a man having more than one woman, right? Only the simps that's over here in America, right, say, you're wrong. You committing adultery for having more than one woman. No, that's not what adultery is. Adultery, aka also known as fornication, only happens when the woman sleeps with another man. But a man can have more than one woman, right? Let's get it. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Which means he got to make sure if he take on another wife, they both got to be treated equally, right? Go watch my lesson polygamy. I go into that, right? The law regulated responsibility. The issue was never merely quantity, it was righteousness, provision, and justice. A biblical man was expected to provide, protect, govern his household, maintain order. The modern West often promotes sexual chaos without covenant responsibility. Right, and I showed an example of that on my polygamy lesson, right? Over here in the West, by us being hypersexualized, when we try to practice polygamy, we thinking it's okay for us to fuck all the women in the bed together. We think it's okay for our women, our wives, to be kissing on each other. Right? That's practicing polygamy, right? Or polygyny without covenant. It's not regulated correctly. So guess what? You going off. Let's get into another way of the East that we don't practice over here in the West. Token of virginity, right? So a woman in the ancient world and even in the East, her virginity is the highest value that she has. Her virginity, her pussy, her body count, and her beauty. That's her value, right? But over here in the West, she could been fucking at 12 all the way up until she, leave the earth. Her body count don't matter over here in the West, right? Because America has told her, don't worry about that. But they want traditional men, but don't want to follow traditional values. And men don't change. That's why when men find out you've been on the internet bouncing that pussy everywhere, right? You've been having this nigga in your DM, he changed his perspective on you. Right? He found out you been throwing that pussy around through the hood, he changed his perspective on you. Because at the end of the day, you can't change how a man feel. He's a man at the end of the day. Virginity was treated as valuable in biblical culture. Deuteronomy 22:13-17. And the father of the damsel and her mother shall take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate. See, sex was marriage in the Bible. Okay, it wasn't no walking down the aisle. You put a ring on this bitch who done fucked about 1,000 niggas before she even got to you. Right? This is not what marriage was. Marriage was strictly sex. Right? Okay? And the way it went was, you would pay for the girl and y'all would go in the next room. Right, your father and mother, if you had them at the time. If you didn't, then you went on your behalf, right? But y'all would go in the next room. The families would come together, sort of how we do receptions today. The families would come together with gifts and everything, right, and money. And y'all would go in the next room. Y'all would fuck on this white cloth. And if the girl was a virgin, you would come out and you would raise the cloth up, and it's supposed to be blood on there because you done broke her hymen. Now, if you go in there and you fuck on her, and you don't break her hymen, which means somebody else been touching that pussy before you got to her, then they got to give you the money back that you done paid for, right? And they gonna put that girl to death, right? That's why it was a hard thing to be a father over a girl, even today, because men don't change. You know what I'm saying? Man, it's a hard thing to be a father over a woman, right? Because the shame still gonna come to you. Your daughter out here fucking this nigga, that nigga, this nigga, that. Man, the shame gonna come because no man want their daughter to be looked at as a hoe. You know what I'm saying? Marriage was covenantal, communal, and legally serious. The East protected lineage, inheritance, and family honor. The modern West often treats sexuality casually and disconnected from covenant. Right, that's how we live over here. Right? La mama been fucking since she was 12, 13. Soon she had her period. She was sneaking niggas off in her mama house. Right? Pussy was hot. And by wasn't no man there to regulate and to keep guard, mama couldn't. Mama probably had niggas running in and out the house her motherfucking self. Right? So, we just in a fucked up situation over here. You know what I'm saying? It's just fucked up. Right? It's fucked up. That's why, There's certain ways that as men we gotta move over here. That's why I say things like it's, you know, she don't belong to you, it's just your turn. You understand me? Cause her being promiscuous like that throughout her life, it damages her mind. It damages her spirit. Right? Not saying that she a bad individual, but parabunding is gone. And I got lessons about that. Just check me out. And not just parabunding is gone, but in America, she's free to act upon her hypergamy. In the ancient world, it was laws in place that prevented her to act on her hypergamy, right? She had in her mind, look, even though, you know, I'm kind of getting bored, if I do go fuck another man, I'm going to get put to death. So that feared her. That kept her in line. Adultery and sexual law. Biblical law distinguishes between adultery, fornication, rape, seduction, and marriage obligations, right? And fornication is adultery. It's just a new term on how you say adultery in the New Testament, right? Leviticus 20:10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress, shall surely be put to death. Adultery in scripture was viewed as covenant betrayal and destruction of household order, right? So as a man, if you fuck another man's wife or fuck another man old lady, right, you and that woman would have got put to death in the ancient world. And that still happens over there in places like Iran, Iraq, right, Africa, right? It still takes place, right? Egypt, those things still take place in the East. Laws concerning sexual violence, right? The law addressed violent acts with distinctions and judicial investigation. Deuteronomy 22:25-27. But if a man be found, let me read that right. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field and a man force her, then the man only that lay with her shall die, right? So which means if a man, right, rape a woman, right? If he rape her, right? Either two things gotta happen. Right? Either he gotta, now since he don't put dick in her, he gotta take, she his wife now, so he gotta take care of her. If he get to the point where he like, man, I don't want to take care of her, I was just trying to get that pussy, you know what I'm saying? He gotta get put to death, right? And by him getting put to death, even though she not a virgin no more, right, she's still free to get married to somebody else because her original husband is dead. Okay? The biblical legal system attempted to distinguish consensual acts, coercion, seduction, and violent assault. This reflected an ancient legal society trying to preserve justice and covenant order, right? It wasn't just about, you know, you could just go put dick in whatever woman that you seen walking. No, that didn't go down like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? It was laws in place. Now, you just go put your dick in her. Yeah, you had the right to do that, but you better know, motherfucker, you better have the resources to take care of her. And I ain't talking about no little small penny. I ain't talking about a couple of $100. All right? And if you ain't had no money before you went and caught little mama and she screamed, right? The motherfucker, you might well get ready to get put to death. The Western system versus biblical order. The lesson cannot pivot prophetically, right? I'm sorry, the lesson can now pivot prophetically. I'm sorry, y'all, I am in the portal right now for the second time. You know what I'm saying? So pardon me. Let's get it. Revelation 17:1-5. Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, that is America, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. The kings of the earth are the other nations that have listened to the doctrine of America. They follow the ways of homosexuality. They follow the ways of feminism, right? They have adopted these ways, right? They have adopted the ways of child support, right? They have adopted the ways of, you know, the African Americans, Latinos, Native American, Puerto Ricans. These people ain't shit, right? They have adopted the thinkings of and the ways and customs of America. Right? They have adopted the ways that a woman, that it's okay for a woman to get a divorce. Right? That's why they're going to shoot missiles on her, because they going to come to the realization that America, the ways of America were corruption. Okay? Let's continue. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great. That is talking about America. Many believers interpret Babylon symbolically as a corrupt empire, economic excess, moral decay, spiritual rebellion, persecution of righteousness. And that's all those things. Those are all traits of America. You could discuss this symbolically without targeting ethnic groups. You know what I'm saying? And that chat talking to me because the white man created ChatGPT. So they got ChatGPT. I'm on the free version. So they got ChatGPT on certain ways, on certain things where it don't, you know, chat become a little biased. So you have to speak to it in a certain way, in a certain manner to get that truth out, right? Because the white man know what I'm saying is the truth, right? But he got the technology program where it try to stay away from it. But if you talk to it correctly, it'll override his programming, okay? The best that it can do. Let's get into the next point. The beast system, right? Now, the beast system, right, is comprised of the beast, which are NATO, the EU, and America, right? Together, a conglomerate of nations together, right? If you want to know who those nations are, just get on Google and type in what nations make up EU, what nations make up NATO, right? And America is the whore that rode on the back of that beast system, okay? Because all those nations listen and follow America. She the big dog of the West. Russia is the big dog of the East, okay? But the system is basically rebellion against God. All the things that I just named. But the main solidification of that system is going to be the RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay? That's going to be the main. That's going to solidify all those ways that the West uphold. Okay? I hope I'm making sense out there. The beast represents political and military power opposing God. I just broke it down. Some interpret modern global systems, economic alliances, militarism, and moral corruption as reflections of this prophetic imagery, right? Which it is. I just gave you the countries behind those militaries, right? I just gave you the brain behind that system, okay? Focus on greed. That's what this conglomerate of nations focus on. Greed, oppression, corruption, idolatry, war, immorality, rather than assigning collective guilt to races, right? That's what Chat telling me, right? Because once again, like I explained to you guys, Chat is trying to tell me, because it's trying to stay away from connecting that the white man are the Edomites, right? It's trying to, because the white man got it programmed to not say that they are the Edomites, okay? So that's why it's steady telling me that rather than assigning collective guilt to races. So it's giving a description of the white man and his system, but it's like, look, I'm going to give you the description, but I ain't going to tell you who it is, though, because they got me programmed, Taz. And if they find out I'm telling you, they going to shut my shit down, okay? Let's get into the Apocrypha, captivity and sin. Baruch, chapter 3, verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us. Let's get the next one. 2 Ezra 15, 5 through 6. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth. 2 Ezra chapter 16, verse 17, right? These two verses are very important, man. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? So, just those two scriptures alone, right? Especially the last one, 2 Ezra 16 and 17, is proof that reincarnation is real, because Ezra is seeing a vision of himself in our modern day time frame, going through the calamities that America is about to go through, which we are currently in the beginning stages of now, but only are going to intensify as time goes on, okay? Ezra is seeing that, okay? He's seeing the beginning stages and the intensification. So he's asking God, Lord, who gonna be with me in that day? Right? So Ezra is letting you know he's back on the earth right now somewhere in America. Okay? Let's get it. These passages create a strong prophetic atmosphere about judgment, exile, and societal corruption, right? It does. That's why 2nd Ezra 15 and 16 are two of the most important chapters you would read in your modern day lifetime dealing with prophecy. Because you guys are currently experiencing it and going to experience more of, especially 2nd Ezra chapter 16 in the coming days, okay? Prophetic elaboration. Imagine an ancient Israelite elder walking through the modern Western city, right? Walking through America, walking through Europe, walking through Canada, walking through Jamaica, walking through Mexico, right? And this is what he's going to see. Hypersexual advertising, broken homes, children raising themselves, debt slavery, material worship, gender confusion, greed normalized, entertainment replacing wisdom. To the ancient biblical mind, this would resemble Babylon. It is. It's America, Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon. Abundance without righteousness. That's what Babylon is. Pleasure without discipline. That's what America is. Freedom without holiness. That's what America is. The prophets repeatedly warned a nation that abandons God's order eventually collapses under its own corruption. And we're witnessing that collapse. Right? We're witnessing the collapse of America. Okay? America makes 250 years coming up in July 4th. On July 4th. There is no empire that has surpassed 250 years. Every major empire, when it reached the age of 250, it died. So that's why we're experiencing the things that we're experiencing. Okay? Final exhortation, right? Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Right? Now, this for my people out there that's trying your best, man. You can't keep all 613 laws. You grew up in America. There's certain things about you that still is westernized. You're going to be this way until this bitch just fully collapse. Okay? Let's get it. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. The goal of the lesson should not be hatred toward peoples, right? The goal should be repentance, wisdom, discernment, understanding biblical culture, recognizing moral decay, returning to righteousness. Because scripture teaches judgment begins when nations reject God's laws and glorify wickedness instead of righteousness. And right now we are a nation within a nation, the children of Israel. We are a nation, but we're in captivity to the nation of America, to the nation of Babylon, who is currently being ran by the Edomites, the Caucasians, the American Caucasians. Okay? And also, they are being ran by their cousins, who are the Caucasian Jewish people. Okay? But God is going to use the Caucasian Russians to take out the Caucasian Americans and the Caucasian Jews. Okay? How you destroy a beast from within. Alright? And also bring judgment upon the Caucasian French, the Caucasian Spaniards, right? The Caucasian Germans, right? NATO and EU. That's what Russia is going to do. How do you destroy a beast? From within. So God is going to use one Caucasian to remove another set of Caucasians. But once that Caucasian, which is the Caucasian Russians, remove the Caucasian Americans, the Caucasian Jewish people, and the Caucasians of the EU and NATO, right? They're not going to be in rulership. We are. The African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, Puerto Ricans, Guatemalans, Cubans, Haitians, and Jamaicans, Colombians, and Dominicans. We're going to be back in our rulership position. Those of us who make it to the end. Right? And even those who have to die on this side, when we come back, we're going to come back in full rulership. Because the Israelites will be in rulership. Even the 2/3 that die, that get the chip, they get judged over here before the chip come. They die in the midst of the famine. But gunplay, knife play, niggas kicking the doors, they die that way. When they come back, the Israelites going to be in full submission. I'm sorry, the Israelites going to be in full power. That's what I'm trying to say. And the other nations are going to be in submission to them. Right? Right now, God is just using them to do his bidding, to do his job for him. Right? Until he show up and finish off the job. Because as them nuclear missiles are hitting America and hitting other places, right? Mainly America, right? Because the EU and NATO are going to shoot missiles on America along with Russia, Brazil, India, and China. Okay? So in 1 hour, America will be destroyed by nuclear missiles, ICBM nuclear missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles in 1 hour, right? But the Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, right, his son is going to show up with a host of angels to also help destroy America while those missiles are hitting. I hope you all have learned something today, and I hope I did a great job with teaching you guys the difference between the ways of the East and the ways of the West, right? And we're in the West, man. There's certain things that you just gonna do. There's certain things you can't do that you might want to do because you in the West. Certain things you have to accept, right? We got to accept seeing homosexuality out here. We got to accept certain shit because we in the West. It's if you can't just put a homosexual to death over here, right? We got to accept seeing our women sleep with different men, right? You can't just put your woman to death over here when you catch her down bad. So it's certain things you just got to accept, so you got to move a certain way, right? And I know it can be vexing at times, right? But you got to keep pressing forward, right? Because in the end, you got the kingdom to look forward to where everything is going to be okay and it's going to be in this proper and righteous order. But until then, we just got to deal with it and go through the process, right? But until then, I see you guys again in the portal. Right, until next time, I ask that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai keep you guys covered out there and also keep me covered. And until next time, I'm out.